and welcome back to another episode of the Health One podcast. Today I have the gorgeous Sinéad Tormey with me here today. Say hello, Sinéad.
Hello.
Myself and Sinead met in Bali, and so many Bali gang on the podcast this season, which is so nice. But Sinead is a breathwork facilitator, and she is trained in psychological astrology. So, can you tell us a little bit more about yourself and what you do?
So yeah, I am trained in psychological astrology and Breathwork. Psychological astrology came first. So I'm self-taught originally, and then I got certified. So I started getting into astrology when I was 12.
Wow.
Yeah, I was young.
Wow.
Yeah. So the reason then that's led to this now is I got into astrology when I was 12. I was not getting too deep, but I was severely bullied. And to the point that it brought me to the point of suicide at 12. So with that then, with all that going on, that darkness, the astrology, as crazy as it sounds, was the only thing that was giving us hope. Me at the start reading my horoscopes every month, every week, just looking for that bit of guidance, hope, oh, it's gonna be okay, there's something happening. That was what kind of then led me on. So then with that, when I got into the astrology, I went through like that dark period. Then through my teens, still dark. It didn't improve. It still went on from the age of 12 to 18. I basically didn't leave the house. I had like social anxiety, didn't leave the house, all the rest. But at that point then, because of everything that had happened before, I was very aware of my environment, aware of the people around me. So I would then get their star sign. So if they were acting in a certain way or going about a certain way, by me researching their star sign, it gave me comfort of knowing that's the way they are. Or that's, oh, that makes sense. That's why they're acting like that. So I kind of then could feel like secure then around them or in the environment, because I was constantly like seeing if something was safe. Like I was in such a fight or flight. So by having that like tool is then what kind of gave me that security. So, and then especially, you know yourself, well, I don't know if you do it, but men, I will want that star sign. I'm not as much as bad now, but like even in school, you know, you used to like fancy someone and you'd be like, oh, okay, and you'd be like putting the compatibility together and they'd be doing all the traits and you're like, oh, you're such a Gemini, like that's what it is. Like so it went on like that. And I just kept getting further and further and further into it. And then when I came home from Australia, I think I was 23, and I remember going into the HSE, and my first week there I didn't speak, and then all of a sudden I started telling everyone their star sign and their rising sign, just because I didn't speak for the week, but I was taking everyone in. Not like I wasn't like judging, but I was observing. I was like taking in the environment, taking in the people. They're going like that. Okay, that seems more like an Aries. That seems whatever. And then we end up like for 3 hours, I think, in the office. I was like, "You're this, you're that, la da da da," and they were like, "Why aren't you doing this?" And I was like, "Oh, you can't work as an astrologer." And 6 months later, I came across an astrology course for psychological astrology, and it's just opened it up since then.
I
Yeah.
love that. Oh, thank you so much for sharing your journey. I really love how this gave you such a hope, like such a light in a dark, dark place. And it just really reminds me of how people criticize and slag people off and dismiss people as like believing in something stupid. And it's like, that is actually something that helped you like so intensely through this dark space of time, and it gave you that sense of safety in terms of how to move forward and not take things personally about how people project their energy and their characteristics as well. Like there's so many things that you said there that I want to reply to, but even like there's so many memes as well about like slagging people off or like one people's birth sign or birth chart or their star signs or the birth time or whatever. And you know what you have experienced and how that has transformed your life and transformed your mental and emotional well-being is incredible. And you know, just for people listening, if this is something that's they've got that judgment, I had this judgment, so like you got into it so young. I think it was only I was like really only recently, I think it was like in the past 2 years. So it's like what, 20, maybe like 25 when I started to look into it a little bit more, maybe 26. Because I thought it was a load of shit. I thought it was a load of shit, and I thought it was woo woo. I was like, the horoscopes are never right. The star sign things are not accurate enough, because I didn't know how much more there was to it. I didn't know, everything about what we're going to get into today, about how, people aren't as put in boxes as we do think based on just their star signs. They've definitely got those traits shining through, like you said. Like, it's really helped me understand like people in my family that are Aries, that they're fiery and snappy, and I'm just like, okay, you're just doing your thing right now. I'm just not going to take notice of that. Whereas before I would have internalized that and been like, oh my god, they're such a fucking asshole, they're such a this, that, and the other. Whereas now I can just say, okay, you need to just manage your emotions right now, and then when you're ready, you can come back around to me and we can move on from there. But yeah, and even with men, there's so many funny memes about like, I actually have seen some on Hinge where they're literally like, don't ask me for my birth time, or or they're literally like making funny prompts about like, if you want to know my star sign, just ask, and all this kind of stuff. I love it so much.
Oh, I'm awful for it. Like, I used to, do you know, I used to do it in a sneaky way though, because like men like think they're so smart with it. So I'd be like, okay, I'd be like, oh, what age are you? And they'd be like, whatever, 27. I'm like, no way, so when are you 28? And they'd be like, oh, June 12th. And I'm like, okay, yeah, gotcha there.
Gotcha.
I don't say nothing, but it's all going off in my head then. And I'm like, okay, yeah.
It's making sense. The math is mathing.
Yeah, the math is math. And then they're none the wiser, whereas I'm like, okay, keep going.
So funny that you said that. I literally did that exact same thing with a guy that I was dating recently. And I said to him, like, trying to get the birthday and the age and blah blah blah, like doing it that way that you did. And he was just like, yeah, I'm a Cancer, what's your star sign? And he was like, oh, we're so compatible. I was like, do you know about astrology? And he was like, no, I'm only winding you up. I was like, oh. Like, that's what you mean. But yeah,
I think they do though, because if you then start reading stuff out about them, their interest peaks.
Oh yeah.
So it's like, oh, I don't like it, but then it's like, oh, but this and that, and they're like, okay. I think it's like a macho thing. I don't know what it is.
Oh yeah, it's a judgment thing in general. Like, I even myself, because I was so heavily identifying with like science and this couldn't be proven, blah 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 blah, that I just had this judgment and resistance towards it as well. But what I said, they pique their interest because it helps people feel understood. Like, I think it helps you understand so many aspects of yourself. Like, I got a birth chart reading off Sinead, and it was funny because when we did it, you were going through a lot of the things in my chart and you were like, do you know this? And I was like, yeah. It was like that year I had really explored the depths of myself, so that I was able to learn about what was in my chart, because some things were quite triggering, I suppose, in the chart. But I was like, no, we've been there this year. So it was like a nice little validating like reading to see, okay, this makes sense. And what you said, the higher purpose, that there's these lessons or this like karma or whatever way you want to look at it, like, because of course there's some fucked up shit that happens in the world, but I do think tapping into something higher than you can really help give you that hope for moving forward, for sure.
100%.
We've got a question. How would you advise someone to get into astrology when they have no clue? So taking it from the top for the beginners, where do they start?
Where do they start? I would start Googling. That's when I done it. I started Googling. So there's a lot of, it's more now than, like, we're talking 12 years ago, I think it was. No, oh my God, 15 years ago. 15 years ago, that's when I got into it. So we're talking 15 years ago. It wasn't as like accessible then. So now, like, you know, there's so much, like TikTok's great because there's so much on TikTok, which wasn't obviously there. So many like informative websites, books. There's a lot of books like Astrology for Beginners, podcasts. There's actually a lot more sources out there than ever before. So I would start with, you know, downloading an app, getting your chart up, reading all the stuff from there, getting familiar with your chart, because like that, everyone who doesn't know about it just thinks they're the star sign. They're like, oh, so me and 4 billion people in the world are the same. And it's like, no.
Yeah.
No.
That's
you
a really
know?
common thing, isn't it? They're like, nah, we're not all the same just because we're born in the same month. So that
Yeah.
was what I used to say. So would you say
Yeah.
like the big three is, and if you can explain what that is, like, would you think
Mhm.
that the big three is the most important thing people should start with, or do you think it's a different type of placement?
So yeah, I definitely think get to know your star sign. Once you then start getting into that, then go deeper down. So the next one after that would be your moon sign. So your star sign is your sun sign. So your sun sign is your ego, your personality, your core self. So at the end of it, that's like you. Then you have your moon sign, which is your emotion, your needs, your wants. It's your inner emotions, your inner world. And then you have your rising sign. So then that's your rising sign is basically the mask that you put out to the world when people first meet you. So say you are a Virgo rising, but then you have a Pisces sun. So Virgo rising, they could be very like nitpicky, you know, maybe a little bit critical, a bit of a perfectionist. And then when you actually get to know them, they'll bring out their Pisces self and they're very sensitive and intuitive. So that's kind of the face that they put out to the world. And then the more you get to know them, you get their sun sign. So the big tree is definitely the good starter point for people to kind of familiarize themselves with astrology and the traits relating to them. Because even like I had a Virgo moon, and so like mine is like I'm an Aries sun, a Virgo moon, and a Scorpio rising. And I related to the Aries sun and Scorpio rising, but I did not relate to the Virgo moon at all. And it's only, I think, in the last year that I'm actually seeing, okay, that is
Mm,
actually how I manage my emotions. That is what's going on, say, within like the inner world, the inner emotions that I probably didn't even realize. Like I always say with a chart, even in itself, people are like you're not born your chart, like you're not born you know, a gambler. Like these things evolve over time. So when you're getting your chart read, some things mightn't relate to you when you first get that chart read because you haven't evolved to that yet. The more you go on in life, the more lessons happen, the more things that happen that brings you into that person. So it's never just one thing to fit all, if that makes sense.
yeah, I love
Yeah.
that so much. Yeah, because so I am a Pisces sun, I am a Capricorn rising, and I'm a Cancer moon. And I think you hit the nail on the head about, I love the aspect of, or sorry, the perspective of evolving into being you. And the
Mhm.
way I kind of thought about it, which is very similar, is like your authentic self that you step into over time. So like over
Yeah.
years, before I did healing work, before I got more connected with myself on a deeper level about who I am, what I want from life, instead of, you know, what I think I should be doing in the world, etc., etc. So I would have
Mhm.
very much operated as that Capricorn, that like hardworking, driven,
Yeah.
success, perfectionist, rigid routines. Everything had to be like, my calendar was just insane. And
Mhm.
I thought that was me. I thought that that was how I had to be
Yeah.
to, yeah, whatever. So
Yeah.
then as I've started to soften, heal, drop into my feminine,
Mhm.
connect with myself on that deeper level, like I said, I've realized that there are those Pisces aspects of me. I do like flow. I am a
Yeah.
little bit airy fairy. I am a little bit spiritual. I am
Mhm.
this emotional, loving being that like I really wasn't at the start, because I was this hardened version of myself, this masculine version of myself.
Yeah.
So I really that as a really important point for some people. I think if they read their star signs like, nah, can't relate, just doesn't really make sense. And for
Yeah.
me, learning your big three, so like,
Mhm.
what, just to summarize, your big three is your sun sign, your rising sign, and your moon sign. And to learn those, I was like, okay, it's making sense now.
Yeah. And that's
Big
just the
time.
tip of the iceberg.
Yeah.
You're gonna go down a rabbit hole and it just keeps getting deeper and deeper. Like there's so many layers. Doesn't It's just not even the big tree go to your chart. Then the further you go into it, it just keeps going. You think, okay, and no, there's another thing. Oh, it's like how did I not even know that?
Yeah.
Keeps
Yeah.
going.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Before we go into like the chart and the houses, can you
Mm.
give us a little brief summary of each star sign, or each yeah, the star signs, and kind of how that might look?
Yeah. So Aries is very fiery. They're very confident. They're very bold. They're very courageous. What's that? Taurus, they're very sensual. Taurus are actually a bit of a foodie, so love their food, love their comfort. They're very fixed as well and stubborn. You can't get a Taurus to move. They're very stuck in their ways. They don't like to change. Gemini is the opposite of that. They're very adaptable. They're very flexible. They can change. They're very good at putting themselves in the environment. Again, adapting to that. Can be very charming. With this also, I'm just thinking of this now, actually, with just Gemini, but all signs have a shadow side as well. So with this, I'll go through that at the end, but it is important to kind of say that you have obviously all your positive characteristics, but like that, you know, there's the light and then there's the dark, and then that's where you can also see that in star signs. So say with Aries is very it's very confident, but the shadow side of that is there could be arrogance. Do you know, Gemini, they're very charming, but the opposite of that is they could be maybe a little bit manipulative. So with this, I'll go through all that. Sorry, I'm about to go off the road, but
no.
I think it is important when you go into it that you kind of, in a cringy way, befriend that shadow side. I think a lot of people shy away from it. They're like, nah, and they just let it keep building and go destructive mode. So think actually when you get to know yourself on that lower level, you can then be able to look, you're not just that, you can adapt that, you can change that in some ways. It doesn't have to be all that. You can move into that higher, you know, purpose, higher self. So it just is important to acknowledge. I just talked that with Gemini. Cancer, very nurturing, a bit of a homebody, very sensitive, can be quite moody. Leo is the spotlight, wants a spotlight on me, can be quite me. They're very loyal. Leo as well is that they're very dramatic, they're very passionate. So, you know, a lot of times, you know, when the Leo's in the room because they most likely have the attention. Then you go on to Virgo. Virgo's very self-critical. They can be a perfectionist. There's a bit of a judgment there. They just want everything to be perfect and in line, very rigid. So that's a Virgo. They're hard work ethic as well. Libra's all about the partnership, so the balance, the harmonious, the justice, but then the opposite of that is maybe people pleasing because they don't want to, or passive aggressiveness that can come with Libra. Scorpios, people have a lot to say about Scorpio. I actually quite like Scorpio. I think, you know, they're very dark, but like that they kind of embrace that in a sense. And they're like, Scorpio is like the depths, transformation, and they can be maybe a little bit secretive, very hidden. Yeah, Scorpios get a bit of a bad rap. I actually like Scorpios.
Me too.
Sagittarius, yeah, there's, you know, something about them, very alluring actually. Scorpio is. Sagittarius, they are very good humored. They're very optimistic. Love to travel. Can see like the big side of life. What else are they? Traveler. They are the traveling sign, because it's in Jupiter. Then Capricorn, very rigid, very hardworking, long-term goals, don't really like to come off that track, very determined. Yeah, they can be quite cold, Capricorn, with how they kind of approach things. Aquarius, very progressive, future-minded thinking, the humanitarian sign. It's not just about me, it's what I can do for wider society. They can be considered the loner sign. They're not necessarily, but they're able to be an individual. They don't have to conform to society. They can be who they want to be without feeling any kind of judgment. Pisces, very intuitive, very sensitive, can go into like a hidden, or not hidden word, a very fantasy world, likes to kind of retreat. They are Pisces as well can be the helper sign, like if there's someone not broken, but like needs help, or the underdog, they want to champion them, they want to bring them up. So they're very good at, like, they're very kind. They are at the soul. I think I got that. Sorry, that was a bit of a ramble there.
No, that was great. That was great. What were the shadow signs from Sagittarius onwards?
Okay, so Sagittarius, shadow sign of that is they can be overconfident. They can spoof. Sagittarius are known for being a bit of a spoofer. Yeah. They love to tell a good story, but their story tends to have a lot of exaggerated truths in it. So that's and maybe toxic positivity as well, because they're always so optimistic. Sometimes, like, they don't like to let themselves go under that. It's like always looking at the optimism in life. Capricorn, shadow side of that is like that cold, like very not mean, but they like, say someone more emotional, they won't entertain that. It's like, you do you. They're very authoritative, so that could be maybe seen as it, if depending on the power that they use, if they get power, if they manipulate that power. And they want to do everything to get ahead, so they might step on some toes. Aquarius, the shadow sign of Aquarius, quite detached. They're hard to kind of tie down. Loner, not necessarily a shadow sign, very detached. They like, I think, even with just an Aquarius, loves their freedom. So in that sense, just can't tie them down. That's the main thing that comes up for me with that. Pisces, the shadow sign of Pisces as a star sign, I see quite a lot, is they attract it's like an addictive personality. So I see a lot of people that get their charts read with Pisces that there's like an element of, say, alcohol, drugs, sex, gambling, and it's like they can be used in a negative way to escape the outside world. There's a lot of escapism there. So Pisces doesn't like to be in the real world because it can be very overwhelming. So they tend to retreat, and they could potentially use any of them in a negative way. So that probably would be the shadow side of Pisces. Sorry, that was very off the top of my head.
No, it was amazing. It was amazing. It's so informative, and obviously it's off the top of your head, but like you really covered so much of the basis of, like, even what I know even more. I learned so much there, so thank you. I can relate to that escapism, needing to like retreat from, if the world isn't showing up as like my envisioned happy little life. I'm just like, okay, now we're just gonna lock ourselves in the bedroom for a little while and just scroll.
Yeah.
But it used to be so much more extreme. Like, obviously, I've spoken about kind of like having issues with alcohol before, of like binge drinking and getting blackout drunk and stuff. Actually, that podcast episode with Kirsty, if anyone wants to go ahead and listen to that one. But yeah, it's so interesting. And I think what you said about the shadow side is so good, because we really need to learn about what traits of ourselves, because our go-to will be, oh, there's something that I don't do that's great, and I'm going to suppress or avoid or have shame about it, right? Whereas if we can understand parts of ourselves, understand why we do something, or understand we've got that natural tendency, we can help ourselves with tools to avoid that. So for example, over the years, I've worked on my anxiety and my nervous system, so I no longer resort to going out and getting blackout drunk. I know how to support myself emotionally, whereas for years it was just something I suppressed. And it's really interesting, because alcohol's coming up quite a lot with some of my clients recently, because I think because I said I wasn't really going to drink for a while. I just, and that comes from a place of like desire. It doesn't come from a place of I need to stop drinking, or I need to blah blah blah. It was more so like it wasn't lighting me up. So it comes from a place of choice and alignment, versus this place of I need to restrict. Like people do like dry January because they've fucked it over Christmas. So, and then people have been questioning, okay, and I'm like, yeah, we have a relationship with everything. You have a relationship with your vices, you have a relationship with, why is that there? Like, is it symbiotic? Is it something that serves you? So for example, I'm gonna probably hopefully celebrate next weekend with some alcohol, and it doesn't need to be excessive the way that it used to be many years ago. And that's a very positive, healthy relationship versus escapism and not being able to deal with my emotions, my shadow side, etc., etc. So yeah, if there's anything that kind of stands out to anyone listening about your shadow side, don't hesitate to explore it, and obviously seek support while exploring it too. Just because it's about star signs doesn't mean that you can't seek support from a mental health professional, because you know they can be traits that you experience in real life. It doesn't just mean that you have to suffer with it just because it's written in the stars as such. But can you explain a little bit about like what the houses mean?
Yeah, so the houses are them little pie charts, the little circle, they look like maybe even little pizza slices, whatever way you want to put it. The house is each area of your life. So with that, then when you start to explore astrology and you go deeper, you will then get your house up, which is going to be your chart. And within that, then that's going to be the map of the sky at the time of your birth, at the place of your birth. So with each house, then each house means something different. So will I go through the houses?
Yeah, if you like,
Yeah. So with that, then you have on the cusp of each house, you have a star sign. So usually it starts with your rising sign on, I don't know how to say it, on the west side of the circle. On the west side of the circle, it starts with your rising sign, and then it goes each sign up. So say if you are a Scorpio rising, then the second house usually should be Sagittarius, and then so on. So it goes
it's
from
follow on the sign.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So with that, then the zodiac signs give an energy to the house. So your first house is your appearance, how you approach life, your ego, it's your core self. Your second house, your money, value, skills, and possessions. Third house, early education, siblings, short distance travel, neighbors. Yeah, fourth house, your home, your inner roots, your family, can also be your mom. Each also, actually, just to start, each house starts from the Aries energy all the way to the Pisces energy. So 12th house is Pisces energy, kind of related, and then Aries is the first house. So again, it goes along like that. So that's how you can kind of know with a house as well. Fifth house, love affairs, creativity, self-expression. Your fifth house is when you first start dating someone. So kind of look at your fifth house and see what energy is there. That's who you might attract or be attracted to. Sixth house, daily life, health, work routine. Seventh house, everyone loves seventh house, marriage, partnerships. So seventh house, everyone loves to get to that. That is serious. So it doesn't even have to be marriage, but serious relationships. Eighth house is the heavy house. That's death, transformation, rebirth. That's that house. Endings. Ninth house, travel, expansion, higher learning, growth. 10th house, career, long-term reputation, can be your dad, public perception of you. 11th house, friends, groups, humanitarianisms. 12th house, subconscious, what's hidden, ancestors, spirituality. So that's
Amazing.
the 12 houses. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing. I'm literally going to go back and look at the chart reading now. I feel like I've forgotten all this stuff and I want to learn more. I'm going straight to that partnership.
Yeah, everyone loves the 7th house.
I'll have a look at that. And I suppose something that I suppose what's really common these days and what people might be seeing online is you might be seeing like full moon, new moon, and how it's in each star sign. So I suppose like just as basic for anyone listening who's not really, this is all new to you. Full moon is all about kind of like releasing, letting go, exploring what's there and exploring what needs to change. New moon is all about setting intention, new beginnings, and it's really helpful in each cycle of the moon for you. Is it 28 days every moon cycle?
28 days, yeah.
Yeah,
between
yeah.
28 and 29.
Yeah, because it matches up with our menstrual cycle, which we
Mm-hmm.
love. But I love when I match up with the full or the new moon. I'm like, I'm a witch. I am a witch
Yeah,
now. Nobody talk to me.
yeah. Yeah, that
Um,
literally happened to me last month. I hadn't I don't know if I'm oversharing, but I hadn't got I was late for like 3 months. Just I was going through a lot of stress and all the rest. And I got it on the day of the full moon. And I'm like, I'm just telling you, like, this
bitch.
is I'm like, I'm showing up.
I love it. I love it. But yeah, basically you can kind of like connect to the full moon and the new moon and what energy of which sign it's in. So like they'll be in oppositions to one another. So like each year, or sorry, each month it'll go through each star sign throughout the year. And then say the full moon is in Virgo, the new moon is going to be in Pisces, and they work in opposition to the star signs, basically in order. I suppose the themes of each one that comes up is related to the themes of the star sign, but
Mm.
what is like for people to, I'm trying to think how to phrase this question, if we kind of relate it more specifically to them and their house and like what house they have in, like, do you have any tips with how they can kind of like, okay, it's a full moon now, I'm going to go and reflect a little bit more deeply on what house it's in for me? Where would they start with that? Or do you recommend, I suppose, to just
Yeah.
start with the energy of the full and the new moon?
Yeah, I would more go start with the energy of the full and new moon, because that's when you're getting into what's called transiting planets. So in that house that we were speaking about, we have planets in each house that brings an extra energy. So you'll have houses that have a lot of planets in it. You have some houses that have no planets. When people see a house with no planets, specifically a children's house or a marriage house, they freak out. It doesn't mean that that doesn't happen. It just means that there's no extra emphasis. There's not like a lot of lessons that you have to keep coming back to.
Hey,
Yeah,
yeah.
but people are like, oh my God, I'm not going to have kids. I'm like, no, please don't be thinking that. People do get panic. So like that. But then you have what's going on in the sky right now. And then that's again the moon. So at the moment, you have all the planets at the moment, obviously moving around. Where there's houses that may not have planets in it, then planets could be in them houses at the moment, though, in this present moment. So it activates that house. So when we come into looking at where the specific moon is at the moment, you wouldn't, if you're starting off with astrology, I probably wouldn't go down that route, because you'd have to then start going into the basics first, because that's called then transiting planets.
Yeah.
Then we can look it up, but like, do you know what I mean? You can look it
Yeah.
up, and
Baby
there's
steps.
there's moon Bibles actually you can buy at the start of the year, and it can tell you where the moon will be transiting. So you can do that as well.
Unreal,
Yeah.
unreal. Okay, I'm getting ahead of myself. So yeah, just keep it simple, keep it simple. And there's loads of great pages to follow, obviously Sinead, but there's loads of great ones that they'll literally each month or every 2 weeks when there's a new moon or a full moon, they'll talk about that, and they might share the themes, and they'll tell you a journal prompt to go and reflect on. And what I always say to people is like, even if you haven't done this stuff before or you're not fully sold on it, each new moon or full moon, it's going to get you to reflect on an area of your life. So it's self-development that you might not be doing otherwise. Like you might not be ever even looking at your relationship with money if it's not come up in Taurus, or you might not be looking at your relationship with your emotions if it's Scorpio or Cancer or whatever. So it's really beneficial to see what themes show up, and like, are you supporting yourself with that in your life? And I think that's what was incredibly helpful when I started doing that.
Yeah, for
Big
sure.
one
Mm-hmm.
for the girlies my age.
Yeah.
Saturn return. Tell us all
Mm-hmm.
about it. Is it
Yeah.
as like awful? What's the purpose? Why is it happening? Help me.
Mhm. So Saturn is gone into Pisces. So anyone from 1993 to 96, Saturn in Pisces will be experiencing their Saturn return. Now, not everyone experiences it at the same time. I'm Saturn in Pisces as well, but I looked it up. Mine's not coming up until like the 22nd of May, 25. Do you know?
Well,
So yeah, so each person will have a specific date that it actually starts at. Saturn in return, people get scared because there's all this stuff in on the internet about, oh my God, this happened and that happened, and it's all heaviness. And that's not true. Saturn is the planet that is restrictions, limitations, responsibilities, but it's also the planet of, they have given you lessons over the years. And it's like, okay, have you listened to them lessons? Have you aligned to them lessons? If you have, Saturn return will be a breeze for you. If you haven't, or you're not in alignment to where your soul purpose is meant to be going towards, then that's where it will come up for you, and it could be heavy. But like that, the heaviness is going to eventually bring you into that lightness, because it's putting you on the right track to what you're meant to be on. So it's not as terrifying as people put it out there as, because like that, it's just putting you in line with what you're meant to be doing in life. And if that didn't happen, you could be just bopping around each day, not living in your purpose. Do you know what I mean? So it's more, again, accepting it, going into that, not resisting it. That's the best thing to do with a Saturn return.
Yeah, I love that. And I really think that that's such a great approach to take with everything that's happening in your life. It's like, really, what is this teaching me? What is this, like, having that growth mindset rather than that fixed closed mindset that we're just like, I never want to change, I never want to feel out of control, I never want to feel these emotions, and we just suppress. But and like, I love what you said, is like, if you haven't been listening to the nudges and to like, this isn't for you, and still people pleasing, or still accepting bad behavior, or staying in an environment that doesn't serve you, I've found very much so that the universe will fucking take the rug from underneath my feet and show me what's up. And I'm like, okay, I'm listening now. Please don't do that again. And it will happen again, because I don't listen sometimes. But with the Saturn return, like, you do definitely hear about, like, long-term relationships breaking up, divorces happening, people losing their jobs, people going through an identity crisis. And, it is really, really shit and uncomfortable and overwhelming and everything in between. Like, there's no doubt about that. But obviously, if you can seek support, make your life easier, use some tools, go back through this podcast and listen to all the helpful things that are in this to help with your body and your nervous system. They can really help you with managing that and integrating what is showing up in your reality, and helping you get more connected to your gut. Like what you were saying is, before this call, you're getting such strong nudges from your gut and your intuition that you're like, okay, this is this. And yeah, I feel like I'm being tested with like decisions and this, that, and the other. So I'm just kind of like, oh my God. And I know I should just listen to intuition and gut, but I'm just like, but this wasn't part of the plan. I love that meme, and it's like, this wasn't on my 2023 bingo card.
But you know what comes to mind with that? And like, it is cliche, but it is true. Like, rejection is redirection. Like, is that okay, that relationship ended, that job ended, but were you happy in it? Do you know what I mean? It's like, it gives you that opportunity to actually really evaluate what I'm doing in life. Like,
I love that so much. A question we had was, Scorpio has had intensity for the last 18 months. What can we expect at the end of the season? I heard it was 24 months. What was it?
So 18 months. So it started last year. Started actually May last year.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, that's 18 months. Yeah.
It started, I this is like how crazy I can be with astrology. It started the day I actually came to Bali, because I did the Scorpio chart. So I was going off the dates, and I was like, I'm gonna go on that day. I went on the eclipse.
Oh my God, I love. So you go into that depth with your chart.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So I went on that, and I think like 2 days before, I'm Aries star sign, Jupiter went into Aries, so that meant any Aries placements were going to get good luck, going to get abundance. So again, I scheduled it around that time to move to Bali.
Wow. Oh my God, I love, because they actually do say that, like, literally billionaires use astrology and numerology and stuff. Us, we can laugh. I don't mean you and me, but I would say us peasants in comparison to the billionaires. But yeah, I
But
suppose us
it's
in
huge in India. Everyone has an astrology now. If someone comes after me for saying that, but I have read that every person has an astrologer in India. They use Vedic astrology.
yeah, they have a different one. Yeah.
Yeah, but they still all go off at that, and like that, like you can then look at your chart or get someone to do your chart for you who does projections and can say, okay, this is what's coming up at in whatever. It's gonna be heavy, but at least you know you're coming towards something. Okay, might not be great, but it can give you a level of maybe not preparedness, but you know something's coming up, so you're not blindsided fully by it. You
Yeah,
know.
yeah, I love that. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Like there is cultures, there is certain characters that will use this stuff quite religiously. Like one of my clients was a personal assistant for like a billionaire, and he would, so her life was very difficult because
Right.
he did numerology and astrology, and certain numbers and certain dates she wasn't allowed to do things for, or like a car reg had a certain number, or not to book flights at this time because the astrologer that he worked so closely with, like one-to-one, said no. So she could go and plan something or buy something or source something, and he'd be like, nope, doesn't work, and she'll have to keep going and look again. And
Stop.
yeah, but like obviously he's very successful and he's gotten to where he is today, but and that's a man as well, you know, maybe he's my soulmate. I'm joking.
Yeah.
But no, this is like how we can use this stuff to our advantage. What I always say
Yeah.
is like, just play with it, see what happens. Like,
Yeah.
what do you have to lose? You've
Yeah.
absolutely nothing to lose, as long as you're not, you know, giving away your power, and, you know,
Yeah.
not taking action in life yourself, and not like, you know, making decisions for yourself as well. You're not going to lose out on anything.
Yeah.
All you're going to do is learn more about yourself and maybe open up
Mhm.
to a little bit of magic in life, I would say.
100%. Love
Yeah,
that. Yeah,
yeah.
definitely. Yeah.
For kind of like what's coming for the rest of the year, or like the next few months, or anything that's important, what should we kind of look out for or think about?
Yeah, I've just checked actually before I came on just to see if there was anything, heavy or whatever happening at the end of the year. We've kind of gone through majority of it. The last one is gonna be, the
Yes.
last one is the eclipse this weekend, is it the 28th? 28th is this weekend, isn't it? Yeah, the last eclipse of the Taurus Scorpio axis. So that's gonna be in the full moon. So yeah, that energy, but that's going to be the last kind of big thing this year for 2023. Yeah. Yeah.
Amazing. And we've just got smooth sailing from here on out. Do you hear me,
Yeah.
universe?
Yeah.
Nah,
Yeah.
I'm only joking. We're all good. We're all good. We've got good
Yeah.
things happening. So
100%.
no, we're good.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom. I've got one last question for you.
Yeah.
What 1 to 3 pieces of advice would you give to your younger self?
Oh, that's such a throw me. I wasn't expecting that.
Oh yeah, I love surprising it. Oh my guess with this.
3 things I'd say. Keep going, because I wasn't going, well, not wasn't going to use, that sounds fucking awful, but do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Keep going. There's so much amazing things about to happen. What else would I say? Do you know what? In Breathwork, I do all this inner child for other people, but I probably am disconnected, so maybe that's something I need to look at myself then. Yeah, just like what all that stuff that has happened in them years, like it's not all negative. I can see it now. I can see what has unraveled, and it's fully has happened for a reason. There's a full purpose to it, and it's leading into something very exciting and amazing. So maybe just two advices, but just like, yeah, I just also think like just any of that darkness, there's always, like, as hard as that is, believe me, I've been this last 6 months, oh my God, but there's light, and you just need to keep going. Just keep going. I don't know if
It's
that helps.
amazing. Well, yeah, but you should be very proud of yourself. Like
Thank you.
going through what you went through, and bringing that pain into purpose to help other people. Like amazing. You should be very, very proud of yourself.
Thank you so much.
Can you tell anyone listening, if they want to learn more about you, more about your services, where they can find that info?
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram under just Sinead_Tormey. So that's where the link is to do chart readings. And as well as that, I do breathwork classes. I have 3-4 a week now in Dublin. So if anyone is interested in not being with the stars, but being in their body, that's a great way to start. So
I
come to
love
me
that.
for a breathwork class. Yeah.
She's got it all going on. If you want to be up away with the fairies and the stars, and you
Yeah,
want to be in
if you
the
want to get
body,
your head out
she's
of the
got you
stars,
sorted.
be in the body. I'm also that person.
I love
Yeah.
that. Thank you so much for coming on, Sinead. As always, if you enjoyed this episode, pass it on with your girlies. I'd actually love if people just started talking about this a little bit more and more, and we could all just start understanding each other on that little bit of a deeper level.
Yeah.
And give Sinead some love over on Instagram and see what she is all about. I definitely recommend going and getting a reading. And yeah, we will see you on the next episode. Bye.
Thanks so much. Bye.